She poured coffee with a quiet grace until the man with the gun walked in, and she moved faster than anyone thought possible. Emma Reyes had been making perfect lattes for 3 years. Steam wand in one hand, steady movements, always the same gentle smile when she handed over the cup. The regulars at Morning Grounds knew her routine. In at 5:30 a.m., open by 6 a.m., coffee ready before most of the town had even considered waking up. Cedar Falls, Montana, wasn't the kind of place where people asked too many questions. Population 2,847, nestled in a valley where the biggest excitement was usually the annual Harvest Festival. Emma fit right in, quiet, reliable, the kind of person who remembered your order after 2 visits and asked about your kids by name. She lived in a small apartment above the old hardware store, drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic, and kept to herself outside of work. The most adventurous thing anyone had seen her do was hike the local trails on Sunday mornings, always alone, always back by noon. What they didn't know was that Emma woke up every morning at 0500 hours, not 5:30 a.m., that she still did 50 push-ups before her shower, that she checked every entrance and exit when she entered a building, positioned herself with clear sight lines, and never sat with her back to a door. Her apartment was sparse but organized with military precision. A single-frame photo on her nightstand showed her in dress blues, but it was turned face down. She stopped looking at it 2 years ago, after the nightmares got worse. The little signs were there for anyone who knew how to read them. The way she moved, economical, purposeful, never wasted motion. How she instinctively stepped to the right when someone approached from behind. The slight calluses on her hands that didn't come from pulling espresso shots. Her coffee shop regulars had tried to learn more about her over the years. "Where'd you live before Cedar Falls?" they'd ask. "Back east," she'd say with the same gentle smile, then change the subject to the weather or the Wildcats' chances in the state tournament. Jake Morrison, the town's deputy sheriff, had noticed more than most. The way she seemed to catalog everyone who walked through the door, how she'd glance up whenever a car backfired or a motorcycle roared past. The almost invisible scar on her left shoulder that disappeared under her shirt collar. Emma had served in the Navy for 16 years. Naval Security Forces, the Navy's elite military police and security specialists. She'd started as a young master-at-arms, worked her way up through the ranks, and specialized in force protection and close-quarters combat. Afghanistan, Iraq, classified operations protecting naval installations and personnel worldwide. She'd been good at it, maybe too good. The kind of operator who could secure a hostile perimeter, neutralize threats, and coordinate complex security operations. Her call sign had been Guardian for her ability to protect others and her unwavering dedication to her team. The last deployment had been different, a security operation in Syria, 2021. Everything had gone wrong. Her team leader, Chief Petty Officer Sarah Chen, hadn't made it out. 3 other sailors wounded. Emma had organized the defensive perimeter, coordinated the evacuation, and still managed to get everyone else home safe. But something had broken that night. Not her body. That healed. Something deeper. It was a Tuesday morning in October. The autumn rush was winding down, leaves turning gold in the mountains. Tourist season over. Emma was behind the counter, cleaning the espresso machine, when she noticed him. He stood outside the window for too long, hands in his jacket pockets, eyes scanning the interior. Wrong posture, wrong energy. Emma's training kicked in automatically. Threat assessment, escape routes, potential weapons. When he walked through the door, she knew. The gun was a Glock 19, partially concealed under his jacket. His movements were erratic, hands shaking slightly. Drug user, probably meth, looking for quick cash. The kind of robbery that went bad fast. There were 4 other people in the shop. Margaret Willis, 67, retired teacher, sitting by the window with her crossword puzzle, Tom and Janet Brewster, young couple with a baby stroller, and 16-year-old Danny Kowalski, who worked part-time and was supposed to be in school. Emma calculated angles, distances, variables. Her hands never stopped moving on the espresso machine. "Everyone on the ground!" The man pulled out the gun, waving it wildly. "Now!" Margaret screamed. Janet pulled the baby stroller closer, Tom stepping in front of them. Danny dropped behind the counter. Smart kid. "Open the register!" the gunman yelled at Emma. "All of it." Emma looked at him. Really looked. Wild eyes, dilated pupils, sweat on his forehead despite the cool morning. Definitely drugs. His grip on the weapon was wrong. Finger on the trigger, stance unstable. Amateur, but that made him more dangerous, not less. "Okay," she said calmly. "No problem." Emma moved to the register, but not in a straight line. She angled left, putting the counter between herself and the customers. Her movements were fluid, casual, designed to draw his attention while positioning herself. "Faster!" He swung the gun toward Margaret, who was sobbing quietly. That's when Emma moved. 16 years of training condensed into 3 seconds. She vaulted over the counter, closed the distance before he could react. Left hand deflected the gun toward the ceiling. Right hand struck his wrist, forcing him to drop the weapon. A knee to his solar plexus doubled him over, and then she had him face down on the floor, his arm twisted behind his back in a perfect submission hold. The entire sequence took less than 4 seconds. The coffee shop was silent except for the sound of the gunmen wheezing against the floor. "Danny," Emma said calmly, never taking her eyes off the subdued attacker. "Call 911. Tell them we have a robbery suspect in custody." "Holy shit," Tom breathed. "Language," Margaret said automatically, then looked at Emma with new eyes. "Who are you?" Deputy Sheriff Jake Morrison arrived 6 minutes later, followed by the ambulance and 2 more squad cars. By then, Emma had secured the gunman using electrical cord from behind the counter, something she'd grabbed without thinking, the kind of improvised restraint that spoke of field experience. "Where'd you learn to do that?" Jake asked as the paramedics checked the suspect for injuries. "Self-defense classes," Emma said, but her voice lacked its usual easy confidence. The security camera footage told a different story. The local news station ran it that evening, and by the next morning it had gone viral. Barista Warrior was trending on Twitter, with military veterans and law enforcement officers analyzing the takedown frame by frame. "That's not self-defense," commented one former Marine. "That's professional-level combat training. The way she moved, the speed of execution, I've seen Navy security forces who couldn't do it better," added a retired Master Chief. The questions started immediately. Reporters called the coffee shop. People started digging into Emma's background, finding very little. Emma Reyes, age 35, no social media presence, no public records before 2022. 3 days later, Jake Morrison sat across from her in the empty coffee shop after hours. "I did some checking," he said quietly. "Called some friends in the military. Petty Officer First Class Emma Reyes, Naval Security Forces. Honorable Discharge 2022. 2 Bronze Stars, Purple Heart, and a bunch of stuff that's still classified." Emma didn't deny it. She just stared at her hands. "The question is," Jake continued, "why is a decorated Navy veteran making coffee in Cedar Falls, Montana?" The answer came slowly, over several conversations. Emma had joined the Navy at 19, straight out of high school. She'd excelled in security operations, becoming a trusted member of elite protection details and forward-deployed security teams. But the cost had been high. 16 years of deployments, of operations that couldn't be discussed, of carrying the weight of decisions made in the dark. The final mission in Syria had been the breaking point, not because of the physical wounds, but because of the psychological ones. "I couldn't sleep," she told Jake. "Couldn't turn it off. Every sound was a threat, every person a potential enemy. I was walking around Cedar Falls like I was still in Kandahar. She'd tried therapy, tried medication, tried everything the Navy offered. Nothing worked. The nightmares continued, the hypervigilance, the feeling that she was still at war even though she was home. So I ran, she said, found the quietest place I could think of, and I tried to disappear. Cedar Falls had been perfect. No one knew her history, no one asked questions. She could be just Emma, the barista who made good coffee and minded her own business. For 3 years it had worked, until a man with a gun walked into her coffee shop and muscle memory took over. The attention was overwhelming. Interview requests, job offers from private security companies, movie deals. Emma turned them all down. She just wanted to go back to making coffee and living quietly. But the town wouldn't let her disappear again. Not completely. Margaret Willis brought her homemade cookies every Thursday, and they'd talk about books and gardening. Tom and Janet Brewster named their baby Emma, Emma Grace Brewster, born the following spring. Danny Kowalski started taking self-defense classes and talked about joining the military after graduation. "You don't have to be invisible," Jake told her one evening. "You can be both things, Emma the barista and Emma the veteran. This town's big enough for both." The coffee shop became busier. People drove from neighboring towns to meet the Navy barista. Emma hired 2 part-time employees to help with the crowds. Some days she enjoyed the attention. Other days, she retreated to her apartment and remembered why she'd wanted to disappear in the first place. The framed photo on her nightstand was face-up now. Emma, in dress blues, standing with her security team after a successful mission. She'd added a second photo, the coffee shop crew at the annual Harvest Festival, Emma in the center with a warm smile and Danny's arm around her shoulders. 2 different lives, 2 different versions of herself. Both real, both important. Some mornings when the light hit the mountains just right and the coffee shop was full of familiar faces, Emma would catch herself smiling. Really smiling, not the careful, controlled expression she'd worn for 3 years. She'd built something here, not just a life, but a home, a place where Emma the veteran and Emma the barista could coexist, where her past was acknowledged but didn't define her future. The bell above the door chimed, and Jake walked in for his morning coffee. Black, no sugar, always the same. "Morning, beautiful," he said and kissed her cheek. "Morning, deputy," she replied, already reaching for his cup. Outside, Cedar Falls was waking up. Another day, another chance to be both things at once. The woman who'd served her country in the shadows, and the woman who served her community in the light. Both were real, both were her, and that was enough. This isn't just a story, it's the reality lived by thousands of hidden heroes like Emma. If you want to hear their stories and discover the unseen sacrifices they've made, follow Echo Bravo. Hit that subscribe button because the best stories haven't been told yet.